Hey Warriors, welcome back to Beyond the Classroom podcast, where we invite alumni back to campus to share their real-world experiences, career advice, and lessons you won't find in a syllabus. Stan State's sociology program equips students with valuable skills in communication, research, critical thinking, and community engagement, preparing them for impactful careers across public service, advocacy, government, and nonprofit work. Through hands-on learning and real-world experiences, students gain a deeper understanding of social issues and how to create meaningful change within their communities. Today, we're joined by Stan State alumna Samantha Johnson, who now works as a field representative serving constituents in District 13 for the California State Assembly. She's here to share her career journey, the experiences that led her to public service, and how her sociology degree helped prepare her to make an impact in her community. I'm your host, Lene Torres, and today we go beyond the classroom with Samantha Johnson, class of 2021. Samantha, welcome back to Stan State.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. How does it feel to be back on campus?
Oh gosh, I was trying to find where the radio station was. I was like, oh, it's right here in DPH. So it's really nice, and it's sunny outside. So it's a good day, good Friday.
So you graduated in 2021 with a sociology degree, correct?
Yes.
Is there anything else that you did while you were at Stan State?
Yes, I was a Spanish minor at the time. I studied abroad in Spain, so I really wanted to learn another skill. So I was studying to become a Spanish minor. I did end up dropping it because of the pandemic, but it was still a great program.
Where in Spain did you go abroad?
I was in San Sebastian.
Oh, wow. Did you like it there?
I did. I loved it. I was studying during the pandemic, so I was only there for 3 months. But we have a really good, strong study abroad program. They made sure I got home safely, but it was a great time while I was there.
Was there anything that you experienced while you were there that you brought back with you?
Oh my gosh, there was so much I experienced when I was there. My favorite part was actually that we got to do a week in Madrid before going to our actual host city. And that just was a time for us to explore, get to know the other students of the program because it was students from all over the nation. So that was really nice to actually get some time off, a little bit, like a little vacation before actually going into the courses.
Now that we're kind of talking about your career, can you go ahead and describe your title in 7 words?
Yes, so I am a field representative for the California Assembly District 13, and I can just keep it simple. It's just a very busy role. We serve constituents in our community and just solve everybody's problems.
How broad is the District 13 that you serve?
It's pretty big. So we serve the city of Stockton, Tracy, Mount House, and French Camp, and then we split it up amongst the team. So we try to cover that whole area.
What would you say is your main areas that you cover yourself?
I cover the city of Tracy, and then I occasionally am in Stockton, and then I also oversee French Camp.
Can you describe what is one of your favorite memories that you had here at Stan State?
I want to say it was probably my first year. I was living in the dorms. That was my first time away from home, and I just got to meet so many people and make my best friends that I still am friends with today. So just kind of having that little bit of independence and getting to experience campus life was really great. I want to say the dorms, residential life there, they did a really good job of making me feel welcomed.
Now that we have a better understanding of your career and how you experienced Stan State, let's jump into our Kipling 6, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of your journey. Who inspired you to pursue your career?
Yes, I was thinking about this question. I was like, who inspired me? So what I came to the conclusion was it's my village back home. I always grew up knowing I wanted to serve my community, at least my city of Stockton. And that's because I grew up with big village around me. My family members all lived on the same street. I had my great grandma, my aunties, my uncles all in the same area. And they kind of just really instilled in me the importance of community. So I want to say just my village and my family, they're the ones that kickstarted this kind of passion that I have for serving the community. So that's how I got started.
What was your biggest obstacle along the way?
Probably as a student, I did switch my major 3 times. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, especially being a first generation college student. I started as a psych major, and then I went to liberal studies for 1 semester, and then I ended up with sociology. I guess I was just trying to find my passion. It was all aligned. I still wanted to serve, whether it was students, youth, the community. But ultimately, I probably should have started out as a sociology major to begin with because I was in the Sociology Club my first year, and it just really felt aligned with me. I want to say now in my career, like navigating the different dynamics of each city, because each city is different, whether it's from Stockton to Tracy to Mountain House. Each community has like a different history, different values. So when you're meeting with like stakeholders and constituents, you really have to meet them where their needs are and just kind of like navigating the different styles of communication that they have.
When did you realize you were on the right path? Because I know you said you had different majors that you were pursuing. What was the turning point for you to kind of continue pursuing your sociology degree?
It just felt aligned, like just what I was doing in the courses, just like learning about the community, people's different backgrounds. The coursework really just felt right. And I'm still continuing to figure out like what's like, right for me. And all I know is as long as it's aligned with like my own values, then I'm on the right path.
Where did your first opportunity come from?
While I was a student on campus, I was just searching around for different internships. I was working on campus, but I was trying to find something more aligned with what I wanted to do when I graduated. So I was doing some research. I met a lady just like at a networking event, and she told me about working at like an adoption center. They were going to have a kind of like a summer camp, and I was like, okay, cool, So I had applied just to be like a volunteer, and then like I did like the interviews and everything, and then I got to be a part of their team during the summer camp. It was a adoption center in Modesto. So I also didn't have a car at the time, so I had to figure it out. So that was like my first opportunity of like just getting to like the workforce for what I actually wanted to do in my future. As for like my current role, my first opportunity came from my advisor for grad school. So I went to USC for grad school, so I did 1 year in LA, then I came back to Sacramento because I wanted to feel more at home. And my advisor at that program, she shared that somebody was running for city council in my hometown. And then she was like, they're an alum, why don't you reach out? So I did. I found them on LinkedIn, sent them a cold message, and we met on a Zoom call. And I was like, hey, I have never had campaign experience. So I was like, I'm looking to volunteer. And from that conversation became a job opportunity. They hired me on their team, actually. And I was like, if you want to pay me, that's okay. And then from there, I got to meet like other campaigns, whether it was like the senators and so on. And I met my current boss like just through the campaign trail, just like really putting myself out there. And like networking was really kind of how like those opportunities came about.
Would you like recommend any type of networking? I know you said that LinkedIn and then just being able to kind of advance and talk to people within your career. How would you like give advice to students about what best ways are there to network?
Always say yes, like as much as you can, like take those opportunities to get involved, whether it's like on campus with a club, an event that the university is hosting. It's really important to network because you never know who you're going to meet and when your next opportunity is going to come from. So I would say it's really important to network just because like the more people that know you, they're going to like, oh, remember you, see if you're a good fit for a role in the future. They're going to know your face and know your name.
Why is your work important to you?
So I think it's important because just the current state of the nation, it's important to be civically engaged. You need to be aware of what's happening around you. And I always tell people whether like they support my elected official member that I work for or not, you should know who's in that seat because people are making bills and laws and ordinances like for you. So I think it's just like providing that awareness to the community is really important because some people, they try to like shut off politics, but I think it's really important because this is going to affect their daily life and like their lives in the future. So just like having that understanding is just really, or just being able to provide that awareness to the community is really important to me so they can become more civically engaged and advocate for themselves.
How can students follow your lead?
Oh, goodness. I had a crazy path, but I always go back to networking, like just finding your community, finding what you're passionate about, whether that's like the youth, education, maybe even like agriculture. Like find the people who are in that space because once you start like showing up frequently, you're going to like find familiar faces, people who are have like the similar interests as you. And yeah, you're just going to like meet like-minded people. And I think that's like the best way to start, whether it's like you can start locally by getting involved with like your local parties, different groups, and then meeting the people that way.
So I know you were involved in a sociology club here at Stan State. Can you just go ahead and describe of how that kind of helped you get into the career that you are in right now?
Yes. So I think the Sociology Club was like one of the first clubs I ever joined on campus, and I kind of convinced all my friends to do it. So all of my roommates, my sophomore year, so I joined it like the end of my freshman year, right? And I had met the current people who were going to become the president of the next year. And I want to say that was a really great experience because I got to have fun. Like all my friends were actually passionate about whether we were helping in like a women's homeless shelter or tutoring student refugees. We got these opportunities to just kind of like give back, and I got to do it with my closest friends. So I want to say that just like helped me step outside my comfort zone a little bit, because I was really an introvert in high school. Now like I have to be extroverted because of my job. So I think it was just really cool just to see like myself grow in that club, and like my friends actually like have fun, just expanding. We also did I think it was for like Sexual Assault Awareness Week. We did like a whole campaign around campus where we tied ribbons on trees and put like statistics on those. And then we actually won an award for that. I think it was like the Student Leadership Award. So just like seeing like our hard work pay off and just building community on campus.
I know you mentioned that you were in a student job position here at Stan State. What was that job position, and that help you kind of get advice or like help you grow in your career that you are in today?
Yes, I was, I believe it was called a student assistant at the Warrior Cross Cultural Center. So that was like one of my first on-campus roles. And I loved it because at the time, I think they were transitioning from the library to the portables at the time. It was like pandemic times. And I just got to see this cross-cultural center grow, and I do stay updated on, like, on their social media, what it is now. That gave me the opportunity to actually like see the campus initiatives and get involved like as a student, and just like overall help like the different campus like minority groups, help them get the resources that they need. So that was a really cool experience. And I also worked on campus as a residential assistant in the dorm. So that was also nice because I got to bond with my residents and like help them when they needed, whether it was like with the classes or coursework or just overall getting involved and sharing my experience, what I had. So that was pretty cool.
Working at the Cross Culture Center, was there any like initiative that you were specifically part of that kind of helped you grow?
I kind of want to say like all of it, but I know at the time there was like the Male Success Initiative getting started, so I was part of like the beginning stages of that along with my other teammates. And then I know we had the Undocumented Student Services that was beginning to grow, and I'm just glad to see that it's still blossoming on campus and continuing to support students. So just kind of being a part of like the early stages and like seeing it still like serving students on campus is really, really nice to see.
And then going back to your RA position that you had on campus, with that type of leadership and kind of overseeing stuff, did that help you be as good as you are as your job now?
I want to say that prepared me for war. So being an RA on campus was pretty interesting because, you kind of have to work certain hours and like make sure the students are safe. And you do have to be in like a leadership role because you are kind of in a fishbowl, I would say. Like you have to like do things the right way just because, if you are not holding yourself accountable, then how are the students going to like, listen to your instructions or follow the rules, right? So yes, I had to be a little bit more firmer, like probably more firmer than I was like my freshman year, for example. Like I didn't probably have like the structure that I have now. So just seeing myself grow from I was an RA at my junior year, just like kind of like establishing like myself more.
What was your first job after you graduated?
I worked at the Child Abuse Prevention Council in Stockton. I was a part of their CASA team. I got to work with youth who were in foster care, so that was kind of a line from my interest that I had while being a student here. And I really enjoyed the program. I got to meet like a lot of different like lawyers, other social workers, and just like seeing what roles were actually out there, and just like kind of do the good work. I think that program is really good for serving the students, or not the students, the youth that need it. So that kind of was like my first role outside of campus.
Within your first role after graduation, what advice would you give students to kind of help get you going into your future career?
I want to say just like probably have a sit down conversation with yourself and actually see what you like to do. Sometimes we get stuck in what maybe our parents say we should do or maybe what we think is right. But like actually see like what has been your interest, like whether it was like in high school when you were younger, go back to like your maybe the childhood version of yourself and what you were passionate about, maybe tap into that. And then after you like have that conversation, seeing like what's actually out there, research all the different opportunities, and don't be afraid to do a cold email or a cold message on LinkedIn. I stress that a lot because you never know who's actually going to say yes. And most of the time people say yes and they're willing to share about like what their role is and how they got there. Maybe like from that meeting with like a coffee meeting, a lunch meeting with that person that you see yourself in that role in the future, you might take something away from that and maybe like, oh, this isn't for me, or actually like I really, really want to do this.
Saying yes to more opportunities and being able to like express that you want this within like cold calls and stuff like that, what other things would you recommend for students to kind of get out there into careers?
When I say yes, also remember you also can have boundaries too. So it's okay to say no. But I want to say just say yes to all good opportunities that come your way, because you never know who you're going to meet. So like, for example, when I was living in Sacramento after I completed grad school, I was just looking for things to do in the area, and I had gotten an email from the YMCA, and I was like, oh, let me just go volunteer there. And I just showed up one day. I helped them build a bouquet of flowers for one of their events. And then from there, I got involved with their youth group that was focused on government. So I became a mentor for that group. And that was just from me joining a random event where they needed help preparing flowers. So you never know where it's going to lead you. And then from that specific example, like I got to go to conferences with the youth group, got to see different people who are coming from all across the state. So like just opportunities like that, really helps me like just see what's actually out there, like what kind of people or what kind of roles can be attained in the future. So I just want to say, like, just put yourself out there with boundaries. And some days are going to be hard, like for my job or my field, like we do have long days. So also know what you're getting yourself into. Like I knew that before going on, like it's going to be like sometimes you will have a 12-hour day, and that's okay. Just you got to remember like who you're serving, and it's all going to be worth it in the future. And hopefully like over time, people in the community start to see your hard work.
What do you value most about being a part of the Sand State community, and what have you learned here that like helped you?
I'm very grateful to be a part of the Sand State community, because this is where I became an adult. It was like very formative years. I got to meet my closest friends. I actually joined like I think 7 clubs at one time during my time here on campus. That just like my freshman year, I didn't do anything, but I was like sophomore year, I'm gonna get involved, right? So just like having those opportunities available, and then also still being able to be involved as an alumni. I know. I get to be involved with like the Black Alumni Network that we're building right now on campus. I serve as the co-chair of that initiative, and just, it's a work in progress, but I really want to see other alumni still get involved, whether it's like financially or just showing up to an event. And then I want to say it's really cool to be a part of this community, because I still get to see my mentors. I get to call them whenever I need help or support, or just have a question or just want events. And I just like feel like I really cultivated that community while I was here, and I still get to be involved as an alumni.
Now we're moving to a segment we call Questions from the Classroom. We ask current students to submit a few questions related to your field, and we pick 3 that they're especially curious about. How did your sociology background prepare you for working directly with communities and constituents in a role like a field representative?
As a field representative, you have to be really social, and it's also in the major's name, sociology. So that's what really prepared me to like also understanding people's backgrounds, because we all come from a different background, and there's so many different community members that you will meet through this career. So I want to say like my courses provided me with that like understanding and empathy from people who may not have grown up the same way I did, maybe came from a different economic background, or just look different than me. You have to be willing to work with everybody, also regardless of party, like, because we are here to do a job, and we have to leave our biases aside. I think that sociology major, or being a sociology major, helped prepare me for that.
Was there any courses at Sand State that kind of helped you prepare for that as well?
Goodness, I do not remember any of my courses' names, but I do remember like different professors, like Dr. Nakano was one of my professors, and there were just so many more. And I believe I was a part of like their mentor group that they had, so I would go to like those events. I was really like in touch with the sociology professors just by being in the club. So, they would always be there if I needed advice, and every class I took I loved. So that's why I said I probably should have did it my freshman year, but it's okay. So yeah, I want to say like all of them have helped prepare me for the career I am in today.
On to our second question. What steps should students at Sand State start taking now if they're interested in careers in public service or government?
Networking is huge. Relationship building, because you want to be a likable person in the community. You don't want to have just like that stamp on you that like you're hard to work with. Just like be open to having those conversations. You never know like how this person might help an initiative that you want to bring forward in the future, or a community issue that you see is happening in your own town. Like if you want to like help solve that, you need to know who are the people you need to talk to, because the local, county, and state, they all have different roles in the community, but they all get everything done. And you should know that these are the people who you should hold accountable. And yeah, just finding your like what you're passionate about and like going towards that direction.
And then our last question from our students: what has been the most rewarding part of your work in public service and why?
Something that I do is casework services or constituent services. I share this portfolio along with my coworker, and we help with different state agencies, right? Whether that's the EDD, DMV, and so on. And something that we get a lot of inquiries about is the EDD, right? So we get to help people get their money back. Some people have been waiting for like a year with like that department, not receiving a paycheck, whether it's just like an issue online that they're having. And in our office, we're able to help them get their problem solved with probably like a week sometimes, so they'll get a paycheck for like $18,000, So that's something like that's really rewarding to me, because, that amount of money can change somebody's life, that they've been waiting for, because especially in times right now, like bills need to be paid, mouths, people need to be fed. We actually just hit $1 million back to the community about 2 weeks ago. So that's
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's just from being in office since last January. So, that's something that like I really, our office champions, that we are able to take action, and we do take that seriously. Like anybody who contacts our office, they will get the help that they need, whether we can help them or we can refer them. So I'm really glad to be on a supportive team that it has the similar values in me.
Would you say that there's like any challenges that you kind of face within different communities that you serve?
I would say yes, because they're apprehensive of like working with an elected official's office, but I just try to remind people that we're on the official side, like we already are in office, and our role is to serve you. So I always tell people, like, if I meet them in the community and like they're apprehensive about like getting the help that they need, I'm like, this is my job. You guys need to keep me busy, right? So just reminding people like that these resources are for them, and it's like kind of restoring that trust in government is really important to me.
Do you say that there's any specific project that you have worked on that you would say like this is the best project I've worked on and it made me feel like so amazing because I was able to serve so many people?
Not specifically for the community, but like I oversee our internship program in our office, and that's kind of my baby at the moment because we get a lot of applications and I have to filter through them, and sometimes it's really hard for me, and I know my coworkers are like, if you use your best judgment, but like giving the youth the opportunities that they need to succeed into their future roles, like hiring people from whether it's my hometown or the other cities in the district, giving them the opportunity to learn in our office. And something that I really champion for the program is that like every intern gets to do an independent research project on a topic that they're passionate about, whether it's rent control, veterans resources, healthcare. And I really work with them. Like I remember like in their interview, like what they share that they're passionate about. And I champion that when I hire them on, like you should do research and then share this with the team and see if there's anything that we can do at the state level. Like can the assembly member take it back to her colleagues in the state capitol, just like seeing what they're passionate about and actually getting to see their work in action is really cool.
Do you recommend having like a student put something specific in an internship, or is there something that they could show that kind of makes them stand out to you? Because I feel like you would have a good point of view on that.
Yes, actually. So our process is very simple. They answer a few short answer questions, provide a resume and cover letter. That's kind of the standard. But something I look for is like, their why, like why do you want to work in this office? Like it has to be aligned with our values already. Like you got to be ready to work. I'm not just going to give you busy work. And I think for me, I like to choose people from different backgrounds, and you can also like apply with no experience. That doesn't really like matter to me. Like I want to make sure that you have an understanding of what you're getting yourself into and where you're going to go after our office, because I want to make sure you're prepared, or our office prepares you with the skills that you need to pursue your career even further, and just kind of give them the opportunity to grow. And yeah, so I don't really have anything specific other than just like, show up as your best self and tell me your why, because then that really resonates. Like, okay, I can see this person actually serving an elected official role, or like a supporting staff, or becoming the president of the United States one day, and I'm willing to work with them too. Like if you come with no experience, I don't mind helping you build on your soft skills, whether that's answering a phone call or like sending an email. Like I'm willing to do that with you.
Now we're moving into a segment where we get creative with a fun, hypothetical question related to your career path and experiences. If you could design a course at Stan State for students interested in your career path as a field representative, what would you call it, and what is the one lesson you make sure every student leaves with?
I would call the course Social Innovation, and I would really tailor it to the community, because I feel like if you are taking this course, and you're at Stan State, you probably live in the area. Most people do live in the area, and we have our large county here, and we have a bunch of different issues that can be addressed. So just social innovation, it would help us prepare different students on how to actually take action in their communities, whether it's the issue is homelessness, right? Or if it's ways to improve youth opportunities, or if it's just focusing on agriculture, because that's very big in our Central Valley as well. So just preparing them for real world scenarios, because these are the issues that are going to continue to impact our district, and just preparing them for those future roles that they try to seek.
What would be one project that you would kind of create, or you would want your students to create in that class?
Yes, I think I would actually want them to go take action. I would prepare them to go reach out and do those cold emails, and have those coffees and network with the organizations that they need to get their project done. For example, if it was agriculture, right, you would probably go, or for, let's say it was water, you'd probably go to the water districts, be like, hey, I want to improve our water. I want to make sure it's healthier for our constituents in our area, and I would want to help prepare them to be a leader and go take those steps to reach out to the people who are actually in charge of those decisions, and maybe have them figure out how to have a seat at that table, right? And then take back what they learned from those people that they meet and tie it to the constituents and their concerns, and actually come up with a research project that can help us improve the community in the future.
We talked a lot about your career today, but if we go beyond the classroom, what are you most proud of in terms of personal growth?
I mentioned before that I used to be really introverted until I came to Stan State. So I was really able to step outside my comfort zone here and just try a bunch of different things. I know when I first was starting out in student clubs and organizations, I was a part of the Black Student Union, I think it was Asian Pacific Islanders Club at the time. I don't know the new name, but just really putting myself out there to meet different people. And I do have friends from all different backgrounds, which I really appreciate, because, for one, the food. When we have potlucks, it's always a good time. Yes. So just don't be afraid, to make a friend in a class that you probably wouldn't, because, that could be your best friend. That could be your bridesmaids one day. And I want to say, just coming from the community of Stockton, Stockton gets a bad rep, but I want to say, I actually was hanging out with one of my high school teachers the other day, and I got to speak to some of his students, and the word he chose for me, it kind of stood out. He was like, Samantha has persevered after leaving Stockton. And I was like, why are you mentioning that? But it's true, not a lot of people, they go on to get higher education degrees, which is totally fine. Every path is okay, whether it's trade, community college, whatever it is. But just being able to step outside your comfort zone and overcome adversity is really important to me. And I want to say I did have I don't want to say I had a lack of guidance, but being a first generation student, navigating the college experience has been interesting, whether it was from financial aid to scholarships to going away to a new country for the first time. That was actually my first time in a plane. So really? I was really stepping outside my comfort zone. My mom did cry. She was like, why are you doing this? But I was like, I just feel like I need to in order to grow. And I did, because I made some of my best friends there too. And I still talk to them to this day. And we met in 2020 during the pandemic. We bonded over that. So just continuing to grow in that way.
Well, it was a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you for coming and sharing what life is like beyond the classroom.
Yes, thank you so much. Once a warrior, always a warrior.
This podcast is produced by the Office of Strategic Communications and Marketing at Stanislaus State and recorded in the studio of our campus radio station, KCSS. You can find this podcast at csdstan.edu/podcast, and you can follow and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Once again, I'm your host, Linnea Torres. Thanks for joining us beyond the classroom.